Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be interviewing a stand-up comedy legend who goes all the way back to the 80s. Her name is Carol Siskind. I grew up watching her on An Evening at the Improv and all these stand-up comedy showcases she did for cable back in the day. Uh, she disappeared, and she's in New York, and I want to find out what she's been doing for the last 20 years or so, and talk about the beginning of her career and everything. I'm pretty excited about this. She's a very funny lady, has a very New York, New York Jewish sensibility about her. She does a lot of, or she did back in the day at least, a lot of anti-male jokes that were pretty funny and stuff. And so, yeah, here is my interview with Carol Siskind.
Hi, is
Hey,
this Tommy?
it sure is. Welcome to the show, Carol. How are you?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm busy on a certain project I'll tell you about. Um, but everything's good.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's such an honor, from one comic to another. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day today.
Oh, of course. Now, is this straight or are you editing it?
Oh, there's editing.
Okay.
Not
Just thought I'd ask.
only if you want me to, though. And
No, I don't care. I just didn't know how much, lag time, or not lag time, but it's fine. It's fine. It's good.
okay.
Because I don't plan to be so fascinating, it's good you have the option to make me better.
So, did you always know you were funny growing up?
I did, because the biggest thing in my family at the dinner table was making someone laugh. My mom was very funny. There was a lot of laughter.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was a very big deal.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Did you watch comedy on the Ed Sullivan Show and stuff?
Watched comedies, and my parents would buy comedy albums, and yes, and I remember when I was they would take me to nightclubs sometimes,
Right.
and I remember I don't know if it was the first time, but I remember seeing Buddy Hackett in a nightclub, with the velvet curtains, and so it's always been a main thing, but I never considered doing it. We didn't know anyone in show business. So it was really by accident that I fell into it.
Wow. I tried to get Buddy Hackett's son Sandy on the show, and he sent me this long email with a dozen reasons why he didn't want to do my show. He didn't like the way it was formatted and all this shit. And he said that if I'm ever in LA, I could interview him in person.
Oh, my God. Well, I know him very well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I lived in Vegas for quite a while.
Yeah.
He's in LA now?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, he's an odd guy, but, if he hadn't given you that reason, I would have gotten in touch with him for you, but who needs it?
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Who did you like besides Buddy Hackett when you were growing up?
Oh, I love Nichols and May, and I remember seeing all the old guys. They were probably 30 then. On TV, Alan King and Stiller and Mira and Phyllis Diller and all those people. I loved all of them. And, what I learned was it really isn't an age thing. Someone makes you laugh. Age doesn't come into it.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was exposed to it very early and all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's just something that's always been in my blood. And I had gone to an acting audition and met a girl who told me she was a stand-up comedian, and it was like a light bulb moment.
Wow.
And that's how it started. She took me to some weird off Broadway, you know, cabaret.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on and just made some stuff up and got laughs. And I remember Rick Overton was there, came over to me and said, "Where are you working out?" I said, "I'm working." I didn't know what the hell he was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so it's been interesting, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
once I found it, I knew it was right.
Nice.
As I'm sure it is for most of us.
Yeah. It certainly was when I first did it. I started in 2006 in San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah. It was something I knew just from the very moment that I got my first laugh on stage.
Well, that's it. And, you know, it has to be that way because there's too much shit and too much work involved.
Yeah. A lot of shit, a lot of work.
That's right. So, you know, unless it's for you, unless you have a passion for it, it's not going to go anywhere. That's how I see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's the first thing I ever did that I wasn't lazy about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just, you know, needed to do it. So, that's a story.
Wait, so what year was it that you started?
I started in 1980.
1980. And it was in New York?
In New York. I worked a lot of little rooms and bars before I went to audition at the Improv.
And were you...
Eventually, you know, I worked everywhere, but, yeah.
And were you nervous?
Well, you know, it's so funny. Well, because that first time was such an accident, I thought, well, I guess this, you know, every time you go up, you get laughs. So I had plenty of bad nights. I mean, plenty. But, you know, the good stuff outweighed the bad. The first time I was at the Improv, I thought I would be nervous, and I wasn't. I kept thinking of all the people who had been on that stage. You know, Richard Pryor and Woody Allen, and I felt like I belonged there. I mean, it was pretty surreal, but it was, you know, and I'm not saying I was never nervous, certainly many times after that, but initially I felt very safe.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
So, yeah.
So who was there at that time?
Well, the people ahead of me, you know, the comic strip was a big club, and Catch a Rising Star was.
Yep.
The group ahead of me was Jerry, Larry Miller, Rick Overton, Carol Leifer. Those guys, Bill Maher, they were ahead of me. My group was Del Marrera,
Yep.
Rita Rudner, boy, this is so crazy.
Fred Stoller?
Fred was before me also.
Mm-hmm.
He was there in the room. I don't know, John Heyman, do you know John? Larry David was also ahead of me.
John Heyman, never heard of him.
Well, he writes sometimes. Mendoza, do you know Mendoza?
John Mendoza?
Yeah, he was my group. I think we auditioned the same night or something. Jonathan Katz, do you know John?
Yep, Dr. Katz.
Dr. Katz, right. He was my group. And, yeah, so it was great. And I got a job working there answering phones during the day. Nice. And seating people at night. And then I would go on really late. And, yeah, it was fantastic. It was fantastic.
Nice. And did you know at that? Did you at that time were you still? Were you making jokes about men on stage?
Well, it's interesting because when I first started, I would have these guys think they should be writing for me,
Mm-hmm.
which was a disaster. I don't know. I always spoke from, where I was at. So I guess I always talked about relationships. But, it evolved over time. It's not like I dropped everything at once. I would take things out
Mm-hmm.
and put things in. But
Yeah.
I guess I always had a neurotic bent on it.
Yeah.
I mean, people have told me that. I know I'm neurotic, but, I didn't think that would be the thing that stood out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're a combination of what you think you're doing
Mm-hmm.
and how people see you.
Yeah.
So it's interesting,
Yeah, you had the neurotic point of view of men, whereas like other women comics like Roseanne and Stephanie Hodge, they were doing it from like a Southern trailer trash point of view.
Yeah, and part of it is the times,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was, there weren't a lot of us doing it in the city, but there was a group, who were doing it before I was, and we'd be interviewed, and they would, how is it being a woman in comedy and all of this, but, I just thought I was in comedy. I didn't see it, as anything, with my experience is my point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So,
I always thought to myself, I hope in 20, 25 years from now, people won't be asking that question, but of course they still are.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, you know who else was in my group? Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh, she started the same year you did?
Yeah, she was in my group. Brett Butler came to New York then. Who else? There were so many of us in the clubs that
Yeah.
it's hard to remember exactly who started with me.
Well, was
It was great. It was so great. I got, there weren't that many road gigs then, so people were in town.
Yeah.
I mean, they were in New York, L.A. There were some jobs in Philly or Washington. But for the most part, all the top acts were performing, in the city. And I got to, I worked the door, so I got to stand there and watch everyone. I mean, it was like going to school.
Yeah. And what year did you move to L.A.?
Oh, this is bad. I'm bad with years. After, about 86.
Mm-hmm.
I was there about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then I moved to Las Vegas. I had an offer to book and work Catch a Rising Star at the MGM.
Nice.
Which was good for about a year. It wasn't, I didn't like being in the position of, rejecting people or, the people I worked for would tell me who they didn't want and then I'd have to pass that on, and that sucked.
Yeah.
But I ended up staying there because I, really got great work after that room ended. I was opening for people. I had a lot of in-house work with the casinos, and it was fantastic. It was really great.
Nice. But when you got to LA though, you got there right in the middle of a huge comedy boom that was happening, and then that big oversaturation of comics had started, and a lot of actors were using the stand-up stage to get into acting at that time.
Right.
Did you?
Well, I was very lucky because when I was there was a glut of all these stand-up shows.
Yeah.
Comic Strip Live, Ladies Night Out. It was like there must have been 10 shows that weren't major talk shows that you could just keep doing. Comedy Central was getting hot, so, it was sort of a great time. And then, of course, it became glutted, and anyone who could stand up could work the road.
Yeah. Did you audition at the Comedy Store?
I did. I worked there a lot. I mean, the Improv was always my first base, but I ended up working there and the Laugh Factory equally with the Improv. Actually, one of the reasons I moved to Las Vegas was that Mitzi Shore gave me great spots in the main room. Saturday night, I'd go on around 9:30, 10. Prime, right?
Right.
But she'd put like a real street act ahead of me. Hunt, piss, grabbing his crotch. I mean, it was like a nightmare.
Shit.
One night I went over to her. I said, Mitzi, why do you keep putting me on after these guys, She said, because you can do well after them, which was a compliment, but not, was not a good thing. I was like so sick of it. And I thought, you know what? Maybe Vegas will be, a nice change.
Yeah.
And it was because people expect a show. They're dressed up. You're in a nice room. It was like, it was a compliment to me, but you work so hard and then you have to follow that. So, yeah, but, it was great. It was really great.
Yeah, and that was at the time when all the crazy shit was going on with Sam Kinison and his Outlaws.
Yes, it was around, it was sort of at the end of all that. I mean, I knew Sam from the club, but I didn't see the whole evolution of those guys.
Yeah.
But yes, and everyone would come into the room at midnight to watch him work. I mean, it was a real scene.
Yeah, I've heard.
It was something.
Yeah,
It was something. It was exciting to be there and be part of it, and it's hard to explain, but, it was like you were led into this really great club.
Yeah, I've heard all the stories about all the dark shit that was going on there and stuff. They're pretty legendary, I have to say.
Well, Sam always he used to say to me, if I was a female comic, I'd be doing what you're doing. But, then I thought about it. I thought, this is such a line to get into my pants. Sam Kinison in no way would be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But, that's how he would relate.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I mean, really, picture it. So, it was a great time. It's a great time.
Did you ever have any ghost encounters there?
No. I have enough stuff going on in my own head. I never felt that. No.
I had a
the way I did at the Improv. No, but it was a hot place, so you knew you were in the center of it.
Yeah, I had a slight one the first time I went there a couple years ago. I was trying to get stage time on the open mic night there, and I saw this kind of weird apparition debris coming from like one of the neon lights in the original room, and I didn't feel creeped out at all because I had just had a really bad car accident the year before in which I spent 30 days in a coma. And
what?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, you're lucky, aren't you?
Very lucky, very lucky. And I just I had supernatural experiences during that, and so I didn't feel creeped out or anything when I was there. I actually felt like I had a sense of peace, like I belonged there. It was very profound.
Well, that's the same thing. I felt comforted by the presence of these other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's good. You knew you were in the right place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt the presence of dead comedians in the room, but I just wasn't, I wasn't uncomfortable.
Anyone in particular?
Oh, Sam and Robin and Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really crazy.
Well, L.A. was, a bit foreign to me, and, the New York clubs were home. They were... It was different for a comedian in New York. I always felt it was much more supportive, much tighter in a way. But, then I wasn't part of that L.A. group.
Yeah.
But, in New York, you go into the club, someone say, oh, nice shirt or something.
Yeah.
You would never get a compliment from anyone in L.A. The competitive spirit. And I always felt, I was hot for a while there and had a great run. And when I was, people treated me differently, much differently. And, maybe that's human nature, but it just was so pervasive. In New York, I have friends who do other things. I have, everything there being about the business made it very intense for me.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're there. What clubs do you work?
When I was in the Bay Area, I worked at Rooster T. Feathers.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Do you know Tony Moda?
Tony Moda. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, well, he ran it for a while, maybe before your time. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it was way before my time. Heather Barberi owns it now.
Right.
And also San Jose Improv. Those were my two places.
I see. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I live in Reading right now, helping my mom pay her rent. And then when she retires, we're both going to move out to L.A.
Oh, nice. Oh, for some reason I thought you were in L.A., but
Oh, no, I go down there.
I'm just taking, from the time difference, that's all.
Yeah.
I wasn't really paying close enough attention.
Yeah, because I'm here in California. Yeah.
Right.
Last night.
Good for you. I took care of my parents at the end, and you'll never regret it.
Oh, I took care of my grandma the last 9 months she was alive, right after I graduated high school, and
oh wow,
I was very depressed for a couple of years after that, but it was very rewarding.
Yeah.
I was so young. I was 18 at the time.
Oh wow, huh?
But last night I watched your debut on the Tonight Show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, on YouTube.
I couldn't even watch it. I had friends over. They watched it. I stood in the bedroom. What can I say? Some people can watch themselves.
Mm-hmm. Was it a good experience?
Oh, I was freaked out. Right before they opened the curtain, the producer said to me, you might be doing panel.
Yeah.
And I turned around to say, what? And the curtain opened. That's how we started. Jimmy Stewart was on. God.
Oh.
And he was known for rambling, and that's what happened. He rambled on and on. But I had dry mouth. I had, when I heard Johnny laughing, it was very surreal. It was crazy, growing up watching him, and then you're there, and the pressure, and it was very intense. And they said, welcome to the show. And, I could have gone back like in 6 weeks, and instead I waited a year because I was so terrified. I was really,
Yeah.
my mind was completely blown.
Wow.
Yeah.
I heard Johnny Carson, though, didn't like female comics.
Well, that's what I was told by the producer. He said he has a very hard time with women, but I told him he's really going to like you. which was, again, a weird thing to say, but he did. Why he felt he had to tell me that, I don't know, but he was an odd guy, on set there was no one like him, but, left to his own devices, he was, who the hell knows, I don't know how many people really knew him, but, he was the best at what he did, just the best.
Yeah, he sure was.
Second time I did the show, and you run everything by them, there was a joke that I said, I don't think I should do that because it's a 50-50. It works great sometimes, but I can't count on it. And this was Jim McCauley, who was producer back then. He said, do it. Johnny will like it. I do the joke. The only one laughing at me is Johnny Carson.
Nice.
Again, who the fuck cares? He's laughing.
Yeah.
In the middle of the set, I got laughs, but it wasn't like, what you really get when you're cooking.
Right. Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so I have some great memories. Great memories.
Did you have your own HBO or Showtime special?
I had 2 Showtime specials.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did a third one that someone hosted with other, I don't know. I keep thinking of Jimmy Walker. I think he hosted one that I was on. Jimmy Walker and Friends, something like that, years back.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when you hosted Girls' Night Out on Lifetime.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's hysterical. Who was on the show? Do you remember?
No, it's been so long.
Yeah.
Could have been
I thought maybe you'd seen it recently.
Not recently, but I remember then. I used to watch all those comedy showcases back then.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Those were, it was every week you'd have 2, 3 things you were taping. Mm-hmm. It was outrageous. It was great. And then, of course, it got saturated and things changed, as they always do.
Yeah. And you guest hosted on Talk Soup, I see.
Yes. That day I was doing The Tonight Show, and I had never seen Talk Soup. Mm-hmm. And the producer of it at the time says, you've got to do it, fill in, you'll be great. It was insane that I did it then, because I go to the studio, they show me a couple of videos of the show so I could see what it is. But I had to be, in Burbank in an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. The Tonight Show. I mean, it was but I couldn't say no. Mm-hmm. But I didn't do as well as I could have if I had, had the material and prepared and had an idea of what it was about. But, all that stuff, it's all opportunity, and you don't want to say no.
Yeah. Do you know Deanne Kincaid?
I don't.
She was a writer at Talk Soup, and she was one of my comedy. She was my comedy class teacher when I first started. I was living in Arizona very briefly within the first year of doing stand-up, and then I went back to the Bay Area after a short time. And she was one of my teachers, and she was nice, but I don't know. She was just crazy, and she was a bitter former stand-up. She was always just telling people, no, don't do that, do this, and she just, I don't know. She was just weird.
Oh,
can't describe
it's a tough thing, The only way to teach stand-up, and I'm not even sure it can be done, is helping people be themselves and find their voice by that. Mm-hmm. But it's, it's very hard. There are a lot of people who want to do it who don't have a natural inclination. And you can learn to write jokes. That's one of the things that surprised me.
Yep.
I thought everyone's going to be hysterically funny. I won't be able to keep up with them. And then you find there are people who learn how to write and act. And they write jokes and they get laughs on stage, and they're comedians.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have at least that, and then there are people who have no act, but then are funny and work with the audience and have an attitude, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I felt that I was funny, but I had no stage skills at all. I was very awkward, very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it took a very long time, you know, to get with myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which I think is pretty common.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to admire people who could hold a microphone well. You know, they look so cool.
Yeah.
I know, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
They look comfortable.
Well, yeah, they make it look so easy, you know?
Right, right.
Then you find out it's not so easy.
It's not, and there are no shortcuts. I mean, some people are lucky in that they hit pretty big, pretty fast, but, you know, it's a craft, it's a skill, and it takes time to build it. I mean, you know, the people I admire at least do it that way.
Mm-hmm. I see you open for a lot of great people like Bob Hope and Donna Summer.
Yeah, Bob Hope picked me to be on his last TV special.
Wow.
Which was very nice. I did it with Anita Wise.
I love Anita.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I did it with Kathy Ladman or Wendy Liebman.
Mm-hmm. Love those.
I can't remember. All I remember is being in the dressing room, and Phyllis Diller co-hosted it. She came in, she says, "Oh, you look so nice." I said, and then I said, "Thank you, you look great, Phyllis." And she says, "Always go for the full lift, never the partial."
Yeah. She was very funny.
She was so great. She was so good to women. Oh, really great.
Mm-hmm. What was Donna Summer like?
I never met her. I opened for her at the Hard Rock in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept telling me to stretch because she was up in her dressing room. I don't know what the hell was going on with her. Trying on different wigs. She wasn't. I did a very. They couldn't get her. And she was a born-again Christian who, I guess she had prayer rituals before the show,
Mm-hmm.
which was fine, but you'd think they would know and take into account as far as the timing. So I never even met her.
Wow. That's too bad.
Yeah.
When did you decide you were going to start acting?
Well, I came to acting first before stand-up because as a child I did a lot
Mm-hmm.
locally. And, you know, I certainly would do anything now, but I've never concentrated on that. I've always concentrated on writing and stand-up.
Mm-hmm. You were on one of the earliest episodes of Baywatch.
Oh, God. The wetsuit.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I remember being on a boat, and David Hasselhoff walked over to me and said, "Hasselhoff here." So he introduced himself. Pretty crazy.
I guess he liked you.
I don't know what the hell he was. I don't know.
Yeah. Sean Weatherly, she was on the show. I had her on this show and interviewed her. She was very nice.
Oh, yes?
Yeah. You did a after-school special called "A Question of Sex" with Tom Skerritt directing.
Yes, I was in love with him. Oh, my God. I was I absolutely fell in love with him. He was so charming and so sweet.
Yeah, I never met him, but he's one of my uncle's neighbors up in Washington.
Oh, is that where he lives?
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't even know if he was still with us. Yeah, I don't know if he's acting at all, but yeah, he was really great to work with.
Yeah. He's had a very amazing career.
Yeah.
And then also you were on the Larry Sanders Show.
Yes, that's a great story. I was opening for Gary Shandling in Texas, and we flew down together. He's the funniest person I've ever met in my entire life.
Yeah.
I did not, the 24, 30 hours I was with him, I was laughing the entire time. It was unbelievable. And we're on the plane, and the show had just begun. I said, I have an idea for an episode. And, you know, at the talk shows, when you show up in your dressing room, there's always a gift.
Yeah.
A long time, they were bathrobes and leather jackets and duffel bags. I said, you have to do an episode about the gifts. And he said, I will, and you'll be on the show. And that's how I got to be on the show.
Well, you were...
I was the potato lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted me. There was evidently a woman, I didn't remember, who did Carson, who did something like that. And she had potatoes that looked like celebrities or something like that.
You were on a good episode, too, because there was also Danny DeVito and Jimmy Walker and Paul Wilson. That's a great lineup of guest stars.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Did you see the Gary Shandling documentary?
I did.
What'd you think?
You know, I loved it because, you know, it really explained what he was about, and I thought gave him the props he deserved. Yeah, that was a terrible day. Terrible.
Yeah. It's funny. When I was younger, I didn't think he was that funny, and then when I saw the documentary and saw these clips, I was just laughing out loud.
I know what you're saying. It was much funnier, you know, off stage, off TV. Much funnier. I mean, there wasn't anything that came out of his mouth that wasn't side-splitting. But his act was kind of very tongue-in-cheek, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, his persona is what was so funny on TV.
Yeah, he certainly was a genius. He certainly was.
Amazing. Amazing.
When did you decide you were going to move back to New York?
Well, what happened was while I was in Las Vegas, my dad got sick. So we moved my parents out to live with me. And he passed about almost 3 years after they came, and my mom 10 years. So I was in this huge house, and the economy had kind of tanked, and the work wasn't what it was, and the rest of my family's in the city, so I came back. And the timing was just right. But it's different. I'm working, I don't know if you got a chance to look at those sites I mentioned, the Boomer Comedy.
Oh, I didn't get a chance to see that one.
Yeah, well, I'm working on these, you know, I can't go back to hanging out at the clubs again. I mean,
yeah.
I just, you know, I don't have the energy, but I've been working mostly theaters in the Northeast. Some performing arts theaters that are large. I was just in Florida at a 1,000-seater. And then some smaller ones in Connecticut and so on. And do you know who Pat Buckles is?
It sounds familiar.
Well, she's really mostly in New York now, but she's a manager and produced a lot of those early comedy shows.
Mm-hmm.
and she's my business partner in this, and we book an all-headliner boomer show.
Mm-hmm.
So in Florida, it was me, Mark Schiff, and Brett Butler.
Wow.
We did a show out on Long Island with John Caponera, Kathy Ladman, Mark Schiff, and me.
Wow.
We did one in the Hamptons with Jake Johansson, Dom Herrera, and me.
Wow, that's a good show.
So, yeah, so, we're on Facebook. We've got some cute clips. So that's ongoing. And also, I wanted to tell you about this book.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what your political affiliations are, but I'm completely disgusted with what's going on with these kids.
I agree.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that. So what I decided to do was to put together a book of posts of different comedians from Facebook and Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And we're selling it on Amazon, and all proceeds are going to reuniting and helping these families.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called The Best Words. I'm hoping it's out within the month. That's what I've been, working on posting and cutting and pasting, and I've got a graphic artist friend who's helping put it together. But do you know who Jonathan Schmock is?
No.
Well, years ago, Schmock and Valley was a comedy duo. Anyway, he's mostly acting now, but he's a brilliant cartoonist.
Mm-hmm.
And his political cartoons will be in. We're in the process of trying to get Jim Carrey's permission to use his. And, so it's a real passion project because I was feeling I can't do anything. And this is something I can do.
You do one-woman shows, though?
I did one. Do you know who Maureen Langan is?
Yes.
We did one together, which I felt we could have taken, to small theaters. But, she got sidetracked with her thing. I had some health issues.
Mm-hmm.
But, no. So right now I'm concentrating on the theaters. And this book, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Do you know Nancy Redmond?
Of course.
Yeah. She does...
Do you know Nancy?
I haven't met her. I actually did reach out to her for an interview, but I never heard back. But I heard she was at the Comedy Store in the late 80s.
That I don't remember. I know she was at the Improv when I began. I think she was part of that same group.
Well, I know she lived at the Crest Hill House, above the Comedy Store.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was her, Mark Maron, Jimmy Schubert, Tamayo Atsuki. They were all living in the house.
When she was there then? Oh, interesting. My memory is a lot of empty spots.
Yeah, it was like 86, 87, something like that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I remember when all those people lived there.
Yeah, crazy time.
Yeah, very crazy.
What do you think though about today's women comics?
Well, I don't know a lot of them. I mean, I watch when I can, but I don't even, I'm sure there are a lot of talented ones. I just can't speak to who's who. I don't really, I don't consider her a stand-up comic, but Samantha Bee is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I'm not aware of a lot of people. I did see this. Have you seen Nanette on Netflix?
No.
It's a lesbian comedian from Australia, and she's really rocking everyone's world. I mean, it's really more a one-woman show than stand-up, in my opinion, but
yeah,
she's quite brilliant.
Have you seen Nikki Glaser?
I know of her, but I haven't seen any of her specials, no.
Oh, she's hilarious, and I saw her her half-hour Netflix special, and she was just brilliant. You know, she's like Amy Schumer, but a lot better, I think.
Uh-huh.
She's very funny.
Check it out.
Yeah, she's very funny. What's your favorite joke of all time?
Favorite joke of all time?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Well, I used to have a lot of, I always loved watching Fred Stoller.
Mhm.
I just remember his jokes. He had a joke, this is from years ago. My father said he had to talk to me. And I knew it was serious because he never talked to me. And he said, I'm paraphrasing, he said, Fred, I think you're gay. And I said, why? He said, because you're thin. I don't know, it was something because you're thin. Just his delivery, he was so great. There's so many good people. I mean, Chris Rock is amazing. Do you know Mark Schiff? Have you spoken to him?
I think I met him at a show once, but no, I haven't interviewed him.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's really good. Yeah, but
anyway, I'm going to have to beg off because my dog is staring me. Oh, you know what? It just started pouring.
Wow.
So we can't go out in this. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
my goodness.
Do you have any shows or anything you want to plug real quick?
What's that?
Do you have any shows you want to plug real quick?
Well, just, I'd love people to check out the Boomer Comedy Unlimited website and the Boomer Comedy Tour on Facebook.
Okay.
And you'll be able to see where I'm going. And please look out for a book on Amazon called The Best Words, Posts of Mad Comedians. All profits will be going to reuniting and helping people seeking asylum in this country.
Okay.
And that's really it. And that last one is the most important because we have to show who we are as a country and that we're a humane, caring people.
Well, Carol, I thank you so much. This was a lot of fun, and I hope we meet someday. Are you on Facebook?
I am. Please friend me.
Okay, absolutely.
Awesome, Tommy. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. You have yourself a great day and stay dry.
You too. Oh my gosh, this is insane. Okay, take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Carol Siskind. Ain't she a sweetheart? Thank you so much, Carol. You're a very fascinating lady, very funny lady, and that was really great to hear the insight from your perspective on New York and LA comedy scenes. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes!